2-2 practice, patterns and linear functions. Let's do some of this homework together. For each diagram, find the relationship between the number of shapes and the perimeter of the figure they form. Represent this relationship using a table and an equation. Okay, so we're counting the number of shapes and the perimeter of the figure they form. Remember, perimeter is the fence around the entire shape, like so. The fence around, the distance around. So in this situation, we have 1 triangle, 2 triangles, 3 triangles, and 4 triangles. The perimeter would be the distance around each triangle or group of triangles. So when I have 1 triangle, my perimeter is 1, 2, 3. For 2 triangles connected, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. For 3 triangles connected, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 triangles is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and here is that shown right here. So 1 triangle, 3. 2 triangles, 4. 3 triangles, 5. We said 4 triangles was 6. We have a pattern of getting bigger by 1 each time. We're adding 1. So if I have 5 triangles, that would be 7. 6 triangles would be 8. But now we skip ahead to 12. Let's figure out what that would be. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So over here we need to skip ahead 3 spaces also, or 4 spaces. 6, this would be 7, right? This would be 8, this would be 9, and this is 10. They basically left out 3 sets of boxes here, and they skipped ahead to 10 and 12. Okay? Now what do we do where it says in here? In means any number I put in there, how could I get the number down here? And that is where our pattern rule comes into play. The pattern rule we are using for linear functions is y equals mx plus b. And what I said in class is m is the over and over number. You make an over and over motion to make an m, and the number that goes there is the number that you are adding or subtracting over and over. Okay? So in this case, my m value is 1. Y equals 1x. The b number is something I call, it can be called a starting value because it's what you start with. I also call it the one-time number because there's like a little hidden 1 inside the letter b. And it's something you only have once. You start with it once and then you move on. So where to find the b value or starting value is if you backtrack and find out when your triangles is 0, what number do you have to start with here for your pattern to work? And the way you do that is you do opposite math. If I'm adding 1 going to the right, then I subtract 1 to go to the left. 3 minus 1 is 2. And by the way, triangles is represented by x in my equation, the number of triangles here. And perimeter is represented by the y in the equation. So if I plug in a number of triangles here, I multiply it by 1, and I add 2, because that's our b value we just found, that would give me the perimeter of that many triangles. And that's how these patterns and linear functions work. So that's number 1. Let's do number 2. Number 2, we have some more shapes and some more perimeter. Okay, so we have squares this time. So 1 square has a perimeter of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 squares has a perimeter of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's my 1, 4, my 2, 6. 3 squares, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and there's my 3, 8. I'm going to go ahead and look down here to see if I can figure out the pattern. From 4 to 6, I'm adding 2. From 6 to 8, I'm adding 2. As long as this is going up by 1 every time, I can continue the pattern of adding 2 every time on the bottom. So here, 8 plus 2 would give me 10. 10 plus 2 would give me 12. 12 plus 2 would give me 14, and so on. Now what we're going to do here, oh, and by the way, on number 1, this equation is what goes here. If you represent whatever number of triangles by the letter n, then how would you represent the perimeter of it? It would be 1n plus 2, which you could also just write as n plus 2, because n times 1 doesn't change the value of n. It's still n. Okay? And the reason I thought of that is what we're going to do here is we're actually going to find the pattern rule first. For this one, we're going to use the pattern rule to find this value. Okay? So remember, the pattern rule for linear functions is y equals mx plus b is the most useful one that we're going to learn about this year. M is my over and over number, and I'm adding 2 over and over. So this is my 2. Y equals 2x. All right? And then what's my b value, my one-time number or starting value? That is if I go backwards to where the squares or the x value is 0, and I go backwards with this one the same amount. So I just go backwards 1 step to get to 0 for x. So I go backwards 1 step to get here for y. And to do that, I do the opposite of adding 2. I subtract 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. And you know it's right if you count forward and you're still doing your pattern. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8, etc. So my starting value, my b value, is 2. That's my pattern. So in this situation, if this is represented by n, then I could represent this with 2n plus 2. I'm just using the letter n this time because they use n right here. Now let's use that pattern to figure out what to get here. Now they're giving me a number, and that number is a y value. Okay, so I'm going to use my pattern rule, and that 22 is a y value I can put right here in my pattern rule. 22 is equal to 2 times x plus 2. This is like one of the equations we had on our first test. I need to get the value x by itself. I can do opposite math. And what do I do first? I take care of my adding, subtracting numbers first. So minus 2 minus 2. 22 minus 2 is 20. Divide both sides by 2. 20 divided by 2 is 10. So 10 is my x value. That tells me this is 10. Now could you also do it without doing that? You sure could. You could do it the counting way that I did over here. For example, 14, the next one would be 15, 16, and then 17, 18, and then 19, 20, and then 21, 22. So there's 4 spaces that are not showing here. So here, 6, 7, 8, oh, I'm sorry, 6, I'm only going by ones here, 7, 8, 9, 10. The 10th spot is where I hit 22. So you could do it that way as well. Okay, so we got quite a few, we got 2 problems of our homework done. I hope that helps. We're kind of getting long on the video, so I'm going to go ahead and stop there. If you have any more questions, feel free and send me a message through the Remind app, or just see me in class, or come to any algebra teacher in the Tutoring Times.